Okay.
Skype call will come in.
All right, I'm calling this guy. I should have called this guy.
So while we're waiting for the call, the ACA Library is up and running now. We're sitting in it.
Yeah.
We've got our shelves. We're going to need to get more books and whatever. Hi, Frank. And get a sign up, and then we'll have a grand opening once we get our studio up. Do we have a caller? I don't hear anything.
No caller. What we'll do before we sign off for tonight, at the end of the show, we'll turn the camera around and let you kind of have a view of what's going on in here. What we're looking at, there's a camera in front of us, and right behind that there's actually glass panes. And there's another room in the other.
Which makes it look all like a fancy studio.
Yeah, it does. But the other thing, that's how we're seeing people give us information from the control room, because we don't actually have a connection with them right now. So they're walking around in front of that glass pane and telling us stuff, and it's kind of this sign language thing they got going on. So, anyway.
Well, I'm going to go see if I can figure out what's going on with the Skype stuff. And you can maybe answer questions from the chat room.
Okay.
Citizens. Because, we're just making this shit up as we go. By the way, we're completely not inhibited in any way by the public access studio. So we are, in fact, sponsored by the atheist community of Austin, and we will be going to Threadgills at the normal time just as soon as we're done here. But you take that. I'm going to go figure this out.
All right. So who's got a question for me in the chat panel?
What's going on?
Oh, somebody's talking about getting people off the ballot here. Let's see. If you ask questions about Atheism Plus, will you get into trouble? No. So what do you want to know about Atheism Plus or anything else? How old am I? Yeah. All right. How does atheism compare with sexism in your field of work? I usually don't even know what the religious beliefs are of my colleagues, so unless it just happens to come up. Like I just found out a guy that I work with is Jewish only because he was celebrating a Jewish holiday. I had no idea the guy was even Jewish. So.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi. Is that Matt?
Yeah.
Hey, nice to talk to you, man. It's my name's Matt as well. Strange coincidence. Basically, I see myself as an atheist as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the problem I have is that I've never really read the Bible, and it's probably something I should do.
Wow.
Being an atheist, but
Why?
just from,
Why?
Sorry?
Why?
Why would you read the Bible?
I mean,
Well, I don't know.
I could.
I did this. I understand, like, science has obviously much more clearer, and I mean, I know it's a book from years and years and years ago, the Bronze Age, and there's no factual evidence behind it whatsoever. And I don't know, I just feel like when people question me about it, I feel like I can't have a good argument for what I believe, because I haven't.
Have you read the Quran?
No, I haven't, no.
Do you feel a need to go read that in order to have conversations?
That's true. No, that's very true. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you're an atheist, you're not just a non-Christian.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Now, I'm all in favor. I mean, I'm in favor of having elective courses in schools, teaching the Bible, because it's got literary and historical impact. So I'm not opposed to it. But I mean, and feel free to do it. I mean, you can learn a lot of stuff and have better conversations. And if that's what you're looking for, that's great. But the way you had originally put it, saying I'm an atheist and I haven't read the Bible and I think I should. That's entirely up to you. You can be a perfectly functional atheist and never read a word from the Bible.
I like to think so. Actually, yeah. Well, I mean, because I'm quite interested in the whole subject completely. And I honestly feel like I picked up on something that Matt said a while ago, that was, not all religions can be right, but they all can be wrong.
Right.
And I thought that was spot on. Because it's just really interesting to see. I mean, I think in my mind, religion, it slows the progress of just learning in general and, science and,
Yeah, very often. One of the problems is that by using the word religion, we're kind of lumping a whole bunch of different structures and belief systems into one bucket, and it doesn't necessarily always apply. So it's, not that I know of any religions that I would recommend.
Yeah.
No, of course not.
But that doesn't mean they're all similarly harmful, and, there's certainly some liberal and moderate believers in different traditional religions that are not quite as harmful as others.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I was just really excited to talk to you, to be honest.
Well, you get to be the first actual caller to the new studio.
Wow.
Although it took us, what time is it?
It's 5:18 right now.
You might be the last caller. You might be the only caller for this whole episode, but we're going to try and get one more, but thanks a lot for calling.
All right, cheers, man.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So quick notes of stuff that's going on. There's one little thing that I kind of wanted to talk about. This might not be the right time to do it because this episode may, just kind of die off, and I don't know how many people are paying attention in the chat room. I want to talk about a little kind of kerfluffle that happened this week when the SCA announced their Pennsylvania directors. Okay. It's two guys. One of them happens to be Justin Vakula, and there's been a lot of friction between Freethought Blogs folks and whatever. Yeah. And Justin has been, he's had his stuff published on, I think, A Voice for Men and whatever. And
yeah.
There are people who wanted to stop supporting the SCA over this, and I am not one of them. I didn't stop supporting the SCA when they hired Edwina Rogers as their executive director. I have had my concerns. I still have concerns. But I support the SCA's mission, and I support going forward. And the other thing is that with state directors, these are volunteers.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm on board with the people who are objecting to this as not necessarily a good choice.
Yeah.
But state directors are volunteer positions. They're not vetted. We're not, in a position to go through and make sure that every position they ever hold is in agreement with everybody else. That's just absurd. And as long as they're willing to do the work of the SCA and focus on that, I'm generally okay with it. But I came home yesterday after trying to, have this conversation with some other people who are, outraged because of things that Justin's done, and I think rightly so. But I was watching his, I don't actually follow him on Twitter. Somebody directed me to the tweet, and he tweeted something along the lines, and actually there were several people. There was a guy who's just obsessed with elevator gate stuff, who tweeted something. There's a convention going on in the Pennsylvania area, which somebody tweeted, how many people were raped at that convention? 50 or 60? And the organizer actually responded to, because that's the type of tweet that I don't think I would respond to at all. Yeah. Obviously, it's just an absurd way to try to make a point. And what it mostly shows is that you don't understand the point being made. But the organizer responded to it, and then Justin retweeted that, and then he made the extra point of saying, hey, look, there's a bunch of us here, and we don't have a harassment policy, and the organizer said we didn't need a harassment policy, and look, everybody's having a good time, and there's women here, and they all feel safe. Well, congratulations. That's a little bit like putting your hands over your eyes and walking across the street in front of your house, and then getting to the other side and saying, hey, look, I didn't get hit by a car. Great. Happens all the time. You could do that lots. Is it an advisable course of action? I don't have harassment policies when I have a party at my house because I am the walking, talking harassment policy for my house.
Right.
But on this subject, harassment policies aren't in place just because we think there's a big old problem. Yeah. They're there to protect you if there is a problem. They're legal protection for the organizers and the individuals. It lets people know what the rules are. What's wrong with letting people know what rules are?
Well, and the thing about harassment policies, like I said, they're there for everyone's protection. Mm-hmm. And as you pointed out, people getting harassed, assaulted, raped, whatever is rare at conferences. Okay? But if it happened, if you don't have a policy to deal with it, how the fuck would you even know?
No, I think they could deal with it.
Yeah, they could.
We're not saying you can't. But the policies make it easier for people to know what kind of things you're going to consider, what you potentially will do about them. That's a problem I've had with some of the policies that have been put in place, is that there's not much mention about what sort of actions will be taken if there's a problem.
Well, exactly. And more serious things like assaults and rapes and things like that generally involves, police or whatever. That gets reported usually. But lower level stuff that involves harassment or people feeling uncomfortable or not even being clear about what constitutes harassment, what kind of behavior, can you tell an off-color joke? What is it that constitutes harassment? That's the kind of stuff that harassment policies address.
Yeah, I try to address this in a video that I posted on YouTube, basically saying that, really, what some of us, granted, not everybody's saying the same thing, and one of the things that I hate is that some of the comments that have been directed at me are being directed at me based on what other people have said instead of what I've said, which is really kind of frustrating. But my take on this is, if you have sensible harassment policies that are out there and published, then the only thing you're doing is basically saying, we're aware that there could possibly be some of these incidents. We're hoping they don't happen. We're hoping, it's kind of like buying car insurance, I drove all the way home all the way around yesterday in the rain, which is potentially dangerous, did a lot of errands and made it home safely. And so did lots and lots of other people. But I can't point to all the people who made it home safely and say there's no problem. Yeah. Because we also saw several accidents, and it would be silly of me to pretend that there weren't. And if I'd been in one of those accidents, I would be very happy that we had the forethought to have car insurance and police and fire and ambulance and rescue, all of these things that you plan for if you need them. Yeah. So on the harassment policy front, there are policies that have been announced that I definitely think need to be revised or reworded because they might, be slightly overreaching. The thing I just hope they would recognize is that, it is up to the event organizers to determine what their rules are. And if you're organizing an event, you can have any rules you want or no rules. You can enforce them on the fly. You don't have to have a harassment policy. There's nothing wrong with this group who didn't have a harassment policy and had a good event. It's been happening for ages.
Yeah.
My question is, if they had a harassment policy, a sensible list of, hey, here are some things that we don't want to happen at our event, and if they do, we'll deal with them in such and such a way, how would that have affected their event? Would their event have been any worse?
Yeah, I can't imagine that a published harassment policy would have made their event worse.
I don't get it. And so, there are people who are saying, oh, we don't need these, and others that are saying that this will make things worse. And, what's acceptable is acceptable, and what's unacceptable is unacceptable. And that doesn't change whether you wrote it down or not. The person organizing the event's still going to have to make a decision. It's just, I don't know. Do we have another caller waiting? Is there? No?
So I don't think so.
So, I am nowhere near ending my support for the SCA. As a matter of fact, I'm the alternate media director for the Texas group that's starting up, or media contact, not director, which means I don't have to do anything unless everybody else fails to do something. So it didn't add a whole lot to my plate, but I strongly support the SCA's mission. And I really, the fact that a state director somewhere working on the goals disagrees with me on something is not enough for me it's not even close to enough to get me to abandon the SCA. I do, though, I understand the complaints and the concerns about a sequence of seemingly poor choices.
Yeah. Well, and I support the SCA as well, and even went to their planning conference in 2011. A bunch of us went to Washington, D.C., had a great time. That was during the time when Harold Camping, that was the first time in 2011, he said the world was going to end.
The first rapture.
Yeah, and so we were standing there having drinks and having a really great time when the world was supposed to end. I guarantee you I was in a room with lots of people that I disagreed with on multiple issues, and it was fine.
What's curious is that, you know, you talk about these internet disagreements, and I don't want to make too big a deal about this because it's, I think, I don't agree with the kind of victim blaming stuff where, if you guys had just stopped talking about it, that's not going to fix anything. Yeah. It's not going to go away. But I do agree that the back and forth arguing discourse and it is not a course to actually solving the problem. It's kind of this stagnant pool. So we're adjusting lights in here on the fly. Yeah. I don't know if we have another caller waiting or not. You have the chat room up. Let's interact with the chat.
I'm not sure we want to open that can of worms here.
The caller sounded like he was shouting from just behind the camera.
Oh, no, he was actually over there. That's where the monitor is set up.
We'll check on that.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to turn around the camera before the end of the show. Don't forget. Sure.
Yeah, we'll do it. Don't worry.
The world ended. You just didn't notice? No, not really.
Yeah. Did you do anything for Blasphemy Day, Jen or Matt?
Oh, today is Blasphemy Day.
Yeah.
So not only will I, do the traditional, my name is Matt Dillahunty and I deny the Holy Spirit and everything along those lines.
Matt?
Yes.
You ready for a call?
You can get the call queued up and let us know what's going on.
All right.
Meanwhile, I'm going to blaspheme.
Okay.
Okay.
I deny the Holy Spirit as well.
Oh, yes. And you pick whatever God you want.
Yeah.
Screw that God.
Yeah. Jesus,
don't really care.
Yahweh, doesn't matter.
Have no reason to believe that they actually exist. More than likely just fictions invented by desperate people. So there's to all gods. That's my Blasphemy Day contribution. Who we got on the phone? Or do we have anybody on the phone?
Well, we have Jeff from Hampton, Virginia, and he had a question about philosophy and contacting atheists in his area. Does that sound good?
Sure, put him on.
All right, here we go.
So we got to make some adjustments because one of the things we got is a mic that can broadcast in here to where we can hear stuff, but we really needed to get the display up. We should use the ACA app, the caller list thing that we had before.
Yeah.
And normally I would have my laptop. Hello?
We have Jeff from Hampton, Virginia, and he had a question about philosophy and
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Hello, caller?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
One of the things that is a mic that can broadcast in here.
Steve's broadcasting.
Display app. We should use the ACA app, the caller list thing that we have.
Oh, and now I hear the stream.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things for all the callers is make sure you turn down the stream.
There you go.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Matt. How's it going?
Good. Because we're having all kinds of problems, can you give us your name and where you're calling from again?
Yeah, I'm Jeff from Hampton, Virginia.
Hey, Jeff.
It's really great to get on the show. I've been watching you guys for about a year now. I've been an atheist since I was about 12. But anyway, the question that I wanted to get to is that I have a good friend who is a doctor of philosophy and an Episcopalian. Whenever I try to have conversations with him and I start to point to scientific or material proofs, he likes to bring up Hume and Kant.
Well, I'm a huge Hume guy, so go ahead.
Well, he likes to talk about how they their theories about the nature of reality and our perceptions and how they color everything. And he likes to say that we can't really know from science and we can't really know from faith either. That either one is just as good.
And he's using Hume and Kant for this? Because that's just bizarre.
Yeah.
Now, if all he's really doing is saying that we can't get past hard solipsism, the idea that we can't be absolutely certain about anything, including our own experiences, yeah, he's right, and it doesn't matter one bit.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, he's right. There's no solution for the hard solipsism question, at least none. I think we can come pretty close, but I think it would put everybody to sleep in the process, and it doesn't matter. It's like basically that whole argument for the people who are down with philosophical discussions is you can't ever prove that you're not in the matrix. Is kind of what it boils down to. You can't prove that what you experience is actually the one true reality. And the answer is that it doesn't matter at all, because we are practically forced as a matter of practical necessity to act as if this were real, because denying it doesn't do anything beneficial for us until such time as there is some way to determine that it's not real. And then once you've done that and you're Neo and you get out of the matrix, you don't know that you're not in just another matrix, that it's matrices all the way down. So you can easily concede that point and point out that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. All right. That's great. There's another question that I want to ask you guys. I haven't really been able to connect with any groups in my area. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you guys had any resources or could point me in the right direction.
Well, one of the things you can do, you can start at ironchariots.org. There were people who were posting local groups up there on a contact page, which I don't remember off the top of my head. But if there's not one specifically listed for that area, you can contact American Atheist and see if they have a state director in that area. You can contact the SEA to see if they have the Virginia chapter set up yet. And I wish I was a walking, talking encyclopedia linking people to groups, but I just can't do that. Those are the first two I'd probably start with.
There's a Meetup.
Yeah, the Meetup stuff.
You can look for Meetup.
I'm actually on Meetup right now. I found TAG, which is the Tidewater Atheist group.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
So, cheers, guys. Y'all are doing a great job as far as I'm concerned. Keep it up, please.
All right. Thanks so much for calling.
Thank you.
And since we're after 5:30, I know we ended up doing this very, very short. There's a lot of things that are going to come up. We're not going to take any more calls today, and we're going to cut this short here in a minute because we have people that we're going to meet at dinner at Threadgills on Riverside.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
We have one more call. It might be interesting. Do you want to try it, or do you want to?
Okay, put them through.
Okay. What we got? We have Gary, and he would like to talk about how the atheist perspective is illogical. Sound good?
Sure.
All right.
So we'll go a little bit later than expected.
All right.
While they're getting Gary put through, so things that are going to be happening in the coming weeks, we'll still be in the studio most weeks, in the public access studio. We are in the process of rewiring and purchasing equipment for this building that will handle all of our AV needs. And we could, theoretically, within the next couple months, have this as a permanent studio with better everything. A phone number, better phone system, Skype. We'll have the capability to take Google Plus or any other VoIP calls, hopefully. And a lot better video processing stuff and another camera in here so that we can have multiples. Gary, you there?
Yeah, I'm in.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Great. We're technically overtime, so I'm afraid we might have to rush this a smidgen, but we appreciate you calling.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, then let me go ahead and just get straight to the point. I'm a theist. I'm a monotheist and a Christian. And one of the topics that I wanted to address is the idea that the atheistic perspective is necessarily falls into a relativistic subjective viewpoint, whether you're considering ethics, epistemology, or metaphysics. And that's really one of the main objections that I have against an atheistic perspective.
What is it that you think the atheistic perspective is? Because you might be kind of tilting at windmills here.
Well, I've heard different things from atheists. Some atheists will, give it a more agnostic slant, and others are what, some people call militant atheists, wherein they will absolutely assert that there is no God. But atheism in and of itself, as it stands, is the assertion that no God exists.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, well, there are some atheists that would disagree with you, but however...
Most of them, in fact, and while I am one of those people who does not believe who not only does not believe a God exists, but I actually believe that no gods exist. That's not an assertion that I'm making with absolute certainty. And the only thing that's required for atheism is to not believe God claims. You're not required to assert that no God exists in order to qualify as an atheist.
And here's one of the fundamental issues I have with that type of statement, though, is that you either believe that a God exists or you don't. And this really kind of goes back to the fundamental laws of logic.
That's correct.
A is A or A is either A or B.
No. Here's where you're getting slightly confused. I agree with you that you either believe a God exists or you do not believe. But not believing that a God exists is different from believing that no God exists. See,
believing that a God exists necessarily implies that you believe no God
exists. No, it doesn't. Just like not believing the defendant is guilty doesn't necessarily imply that you believe the defendant is innocent.
That's an excellent example. That's
and the reason for that, and I'll try to get through this quick, is that there's two different things being discussed. One is the truth proposition, the fact proposition about reality. And that is two-pronged. Either a God exists or no God exists. Those are the only two options. But what you believe about those two options are very different. On the proposition that a God exists, you can equate that to the defendant is guilty. There are people, theists, who would agree that a God exists, and atheists who would not agree that a God exists. Then there's the separate proposition that no God exists, which is like the proposition of innocence. And
no, go ahead. Sorry.
You only address one prong of a factual issue. That's why when juries make up when juries are asked to decide on an issue, they are addressing the question of guilt. They are not addressing innocence.
All right, no. The only objection that I would still have with that is that obviously there's some reason why you will not make the assertion that there is a God, and you take the position of atheism. Otherwise, you'd be considered what's called agnostic.
No. Agnosticism addresses a different question.
No. If you're going to say that the idea of God is on trial and there's no conclusion about it at this moment,
agnostic is a separate issue. You can be an agnostic atheist or an agnostic theist, a Gnostic atheist or a Gnostic theist. Gnosticism and agnosticism address what you know, and theism and atheism address what you believe, and knowledge is a subset of belief. So that agnostic and atheist are not exclusive terms.
Okay, well, for the sake of argument, I'd really like, I'll go ahead and concede with what you're saying. Right? We could argue this for quite a while, but the main issue that I wanted to bring up is the idea that the absence of a belief in a God reduces your perspective to subjective relativism, and also what you were discussing earlier, solipsism, or solipsism, however you pronounce it.
Okay.
Being in that your standard of knowledge or truth, or coming to a knowledge of the truth, if you believe that truth exists, which I know some atheists don't, is necessarily anthropocentric.
Okay.
So therefore, if you do have, do you in particular, do you have a sort of man-centered view of like how do you believe you know what you know, or how do you believe that what you know is true, or do you believe in certainty whatsoever?
Well, I think absolute certainty is, generally speaking, a red herring. There's only a few things that we can be absolutely certain about, logical absolutes, and esoteric claims and labels and things like that. As a matter of looking around the world, I don't see that we can be absolutely certain about very many things, and I don't think it matters at all, because it's just like, we can't beat hard solipsism. It doesn't matter whether or not I'm absolutely certain about something, because I don't require absolute certainty in order to act upon it or in order to be rationally justified. The way that we go about determining whether or not something's rationally justified is by applying logic and reason to the evidence and making sure that the claims are not just independently verified, but verified by other people as well. Now, are we assuming that there are, in fact, other people? Yes.
No. Here's the only issue I would take with that argument is that, one of the issues is that, right, if you're going to tell me that certainty doesn't matter, okay, is that what you're saying?
I didn't say that. I didn't say certainty doesn't matter. I said I think absolute certainty is often a red herring because there are very few things that we can be absolutely certain about. But of those things that we could be absolutely certain about, of course it matters.
Okay, it matters, and I'm saying that this subject is included in that category. Is that these conclusions that we can come to about whether or not a God exists or not, or whether or not there's absolute truth, or whether or not certainty is a plausible concept, and things of that nature have everything to do with our perspective, and our perspective has everything to do with how we interact in the world. Therefore, it is extremely important.
No, we can demonstrate things like logical absolutes to absolute certainty as a matter of necessity. But that doesn't matter because the things that we're talking about here, the things that we're disagreeing on, are things that neither of us could be absolutely certain about.
Which is what? If you could give me an example.
Well, I don't know. Pick something.
The idea of certainty? I'll pick that. The idea of certainty.
No, because we can demonstrate absolute certainty for things like esoteric claims and labels. You know,
I'm talking about a priori knowledge here. Right? If you take a priori knowledge into consideration, okay, theology and the various aspects of philosophy are necessarily included as being things that you can have a priori knowledge about.
No.
And eventually it becomes applicable to empirical
really,
evidence. You have to start with basics.
You're making this a lot harder than it is. I am absolutely certain that this is a pair of sunglasses. And the reason that I'm absolutely certain of it is because that is the label that I put on this object. We could call it something else, and I would be absolutely certain that it is that. That is an area.
Are you saying that labels are arbitrary?
Of course labels are arbitrary.
Okay, alright. No. The idea that labels are arbitrary, is that an arbitrary thing? Or is that something that's true regardless of what people think?
Labels are by definition arbitrary. Labels are something that minds impose or imbue onto items.
So are you saying, do you believe in an objective reality?
Yes.
Or do you think that okay, alright. Now, is objective reality subject to being arbitrarily labeled? I'm not talking about the sequence of sounds that come out of your mouth. I'm talking about what it is in principle and its definition. Regardless,
no. What it is in principle is for Christ's sake. I'm not concerned. You asked about labels. And I can label something whatever I want. That's how we end up with different languages.
Right.
So, of course...
But the issue in principle is the meaning and the definition and what people are saying when they provide that label.
That's different. That's not a label. That is not a label.
The label in and of itself.
Oh my gosh. Is it not going to be any better with Skype? That's not a label. The thing itself is not the label. Don't confuse the map for the place.
Absolutely not. But the label was assigned to that thing for a reason.
The label is a pointer. It is a shortcut for communicating a concept about the thing. The thing is something separate.
Right. Okay, so we're talking about the difference between objective and subjective reality. But what I'm asking you is from an atheistic perspective, how do you come to a knowledge of objective reality?
I don't know what you mean by from an atheistic perspective.
What I mean is by what standard do you come to a knowledge of the truth?
Reason and evidence.
I mean, we can talk about labels.
Oh my gosh.
Arbitrary things, but and even then, what do you believe constitutes proper evidence? How do you conclude what that is?
Well, I definitely don't have time, since we're over time, to explain to you the nature of determining what is good evidence for everything in the world, because the standards of evidence are different for each claim. There are some claims that are trivial, and therefore the standards of evidence for those, in order to determine what is rationally believable, are going to be different from those claims that are not trivial. That's where we get the common adage that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
tell you what,
if you're out of time, I'll just
we are way past out of time. Call in another time or email tb@atheist-community.org. These are certainly things that we can talk about. But at the end of the day, the difference in our beliefs, you believe there's a God and I don't, isn't in any way impacted by what I happen to think about reality. Because, what I happen to think about certainty.
Yeah.
Because your claim is either believable or not, and you either have sufficient evidence for your claim or you do not. Now, I'm assuming...
What I'm saying is that the atheistic perspective is necessarily anthropocentric. Therefore, you have a subjective relativistic standard for determining what the truth is. And you have no higher standard to appeal to. Therefore, you can't have any certainty about anything. You said you could have certainty about something. But I'm saying that you absolutely, from your perspective, have no metaphysical or epistemological basis in order to make that claim.
Do you think, oh, for fuck's sake, do you think that you can beat the problem of hard solipsism?
Absolutely. That's part of what the theistic perspective is about.
How can you beat that? How can you demonstrate that solipsism is false?
Solipsism is false. Okay, this will sum it up. All right, this might sound ridiculous to you, but that's fine. I can go into further detail if you have the time. But this is the summary. Solipsism is false. It's necessarily false because God exists.
Okay, hang up on this dumbass who wasted my time afterwards. You don't get to just assume the thing that gets you out of the trouble. The fact of the matter is, hang up on his ass now. The fact of the matter is, you're still bound by the same reality that the rest of us are, and you want to run around asserting that we don't have a solution to this problem, but you do. And your solution is, God exists. Well, congratulations. Next time, bring some actual evidence. Not word salad.
Why do people keep calling in and thinking that the thing they're trying to demonstrate is actually the evidence?
Yeah.
That proves the thing they're trying to demonstrate? And that's all this guy did.
Yeah. Hey, at the end of the day, solipsism has to be false because I believe there's a God. Really? Okay, cool. Prove that your God exists. Demonstrate it. Oh, and how are you going to do that? You're going to have to work within the same framework of reason and evidence that the rest of us are in, and you think that's a big old problem, and yet you think you've solved it. I tell you what, let's go ahead and we'll kill off the stream. We're not going to run any special stuff. We're going to head to dinner before the people who are waiting for us there think we've lost everything. We'll be back in the studio next week and probably back here whenever the hell we want.
Yeah.
Probably special episodes. We'll get stuff posted on the internet. By the way, the Skype address that you'll want to be contacting may change as we set up actual accounts for the ACA around the world. This was a temp one I threw together today. Thanks to everybody who was patient enough to try to see how this episode would go. I'm actually surprised at what worked well.
Yeah.
Even though it took a while.
Before we...
Oh, the camera.
We have to spin the camera around. Hang on.
So, yeah, let me take my mic out, or let me move with my mic. So, I can't see to narrate. Jen doesn't have a mic.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what we can show here. Look, I'm waving on the green screen.
All right. There we go. There's Matt.
So this room is what's going to be our studio. It's in the front of the building. We've still got to work on audio stuff. We may need some baffling in here to kind of keep the noise down stuff. We've got some of our shelves have been put in, but if you spin the camera around all the way, and we might have to back up to see it properly, but there's a glass wall between this room and the other room where there's just almost nobody, but some of our shelves and stuff. And there's actually a control room on the other side of this door that's the office, which you can't quite see yet. And then a kitchen and a back porch area. And
there's more shelves. I'm spinning around back into the room here.
So, fairly small place. We're trying to work... Ooh! Ah, you just lost all the video. Oh, no. Spinning the camera around 360 degrees will disconnect the video. But that's all right. It needs to go to the yellow one. Oh, it does. You have the red adapter. All right. You may get video back now. Anyway, thanks everybody. We're going to try to keep improving this until this studio functions better in every conceivable way than the public access studio, at which time we may tell the public access studio, you know what? We'll send you a feed when we feel like you want to include our best public access TV show on your network. Anyway, we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.